Everyone, my name is Liuwen and my beneficiary university is University of Luxembourg. My main supervisor is Professor Liuwen. My project title is Risk Analysis and Regulatory Compliance of Distributed Ledger Technologies for Transaction and Management of Securities. This presentation will focus on the following things: background and research questions, methodologies and progress, publications, and finally other training and plans. Let's first start with the background of my topic. The emergence of blockchain or in general distributed ledger technologies has got a lot of attention. They are also perceived promising to be applied to the securities market. In general, the study on DLT-based securities market is a cross-cutting discipline involving finance, computer science, and law. Because only securities market itself is already very huge discipline, it is necessary for this research to figure out first how securities market generally works, including many questions. And also, I was suggested to study this topic under specific legal framework, and after some literature review, we chose the strand of securities market, which is the European fund management, especially for the portfolio of securities, with mailing two legal documents, AIFMD and UCITSD. There are three expected results according to the grant agreement. The first is to identify pitfall security problems and vulnerabilities of DLT systems, and the second to compare existing platforms of security management with the new DLT system, and third is to assess the advantages, if any, and the feasibilities of building DLT architectures for managing securities. From the expected results and the choice on European fund management, I mainly work on these three research questions. The first is, how does European fund management work and what are the drawbacks? The second is how to develop a feasible DLT architecture for European fund management. And the third, how can the DLT-based system enhance trust and legal compliance of fund management? The second part is methodologies and progress. To answer the first question, I mainly conduct a general literature review. This is the simplified ecosystem of fund management. The investors act as trustor or principal to invest their money to the trustee, or we say fund managers, and then fund managers serve as agents to the investors. They conduct their research on securities market, they select and invest the securities on behalf of them, providing investors with the peace of mind and their money is in the right hand of an expert. However, the reality is not always as hoped, and investors tend to know, but they do not actually know where their money is going, why, and how much is the true profit. Because very often, the managers withhold the investment plans and the decision-making process from their investors, such that these services to some extent suffer from lack of transparency, documentation, traceability, and inclusive decision-making mechanisms. So to solve these problems, I worked with Mirko Zekicki, Reka Markiewicz, and Emro Nasha. We together proposed the DLT-based architectures for fund management. We call it Intelligent Human Input-Based Blockchain Oracles. For short, we call it IBO. Where we use formal argumentation to model fund management decision-making, and we integrate this process within a blockchain system, such that the decision-making and the corresponding investment process are transparent, traceable, and auditable. We choose formal argumentation because it's now an inferential approach to model common sense reasoning that handles conflicting information, viewpoints, opinions, etc. There are two main streams in the field of formal argumentation. One is abstract argumentation, which is strongly mathematically oriented. It can be represented by directed graphs, the consisting arguments and their relations, just like this very simple example. And such graph can then be analyzed and determine which argument among these graphs are acceptable according to some general criteria, which is called argumentation semantics. For more detailed information about the formalization of arguments, it turns to structured argumentation. So in structured argumentation, a formal language is assumed for representing knowledge base and specifying how argument and counter-argument can be constructed from their knowledge base. An argument is then said to be structured because the premises and the conclusions of it are made explicit, and the relation between the premise and conclusions is formally defined. Both of these two have many kinds of formalizations and extensions. So in order to provide a complete ways for modeling fund management decision making, I conduct research on a principle-based approach to formal argumentation, and I select three kinds of formalization of argumentation. The first is structured argumentation, which provides intuitive pathway for constructing arguments and their relations, and bipolar argumentation that expresses both attack and support relations, and also abstract agent argumentation that has the role of multi-agent. For each of the formalization, we use the principle-based approach, which is a methodology to identify and formalize characterizing the set of general criterion for semantics evaluation, where we apply these principles or criterion to compare the semantics in a systematic way. Our results of the principle-based analysis are shown by this kind of table, showing the comparisons between the principles and semantics. So for each of work on specific argumentation formalization, we have hundreds of propositions and proofs. One thing need to be noticed here is that we aim to provide many ways for modeling fund management decision making, and we use the principle-based approach, which can provide an overview and comparison of these different models and semantics, such that the users can exactly to choose the desired semantics based on the certain principles. The last methodology to answer the second question are architecture, constructions, and experiments in evaluation. We propose three possible DOT-based systems and select one and call it EBO. EBO uses a private Ethereum blockchain to achieve a proof of concept of resolving conflict in decision making. And we use layer 2 technologies such that on the one hand, we put the decision making on sidechain, and on the other hand, we put the securities transactions based on the decision on the main chain. And also we conduct the important experiment and evaluation of our model. And these two figures shows the economic and efficiency results, which are obtained by evaluating the use case smart contracts implemented in terms of gas usage. The last research question is about enhancing trust and legal compliance of fund management based on EBO. So we only select two articles here because due to the time limitation. One is from AIFMS and UCITS about the core duty of fund managers. So indeed, EBO can fulfill the core duty of the fund managers as the decision making is recorded on-chain and traceable and auditable. And also, EBO can manage the required disclosure without secret breach through layer 2 technology. And the last part is about my publications and some other training plans and future plans. So here are the publications. In total, I have 9, and each of them will be integrated into the final thesis. And there are also 3 journals going to be submitted very soon. And among all of these, there are some top conferences, including KR 2021, ICART 2022, and HICSS 2022. For the training in the past, here are the selected presentations of the accepted papers, and also I gained the teaching experience because I was the teaching assistant for Intelligent Agent 1 and 2 for several times, hosted by the University of Luxembourg. And for the future plan, of course, I will finish the thesis and also the internship in the Luxembourg company Minify. That's all for my presentation. Thanks for listening.